Welcome to the Tortoise and Hare Financial Podcast, where we help you navigate the complex world of personal finance. Your host, Jim Lau, will be joined by co-host Ryan Gino. Today, we're diving into a topic that's on many people's minds: retirement. We all dream of the day when we can hang up our work hats and enjoy our golden years. But did you know that there may be some benefits to delaying your retirement? That's right, experts are now saying that there are 20 reasons to hold off on retiring, and we're going to explore all of them in today's episode. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready to learn why you may want to consider putting off your retirement plans. Let's get started.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the Tortoise and the Hare Financial Podcast. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jim Lau, partner at TVH Group, president of TVH Financial, private wealth advisor at Raintree Financial Solutions, as I mentioned, the host of the Tortoise and the Hare Financial Podcast. And today joining me is Ryan Gino, who's associate financial advisor at TVH Financial, and also my co-host. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited about this topic that we have for today.
Are you? Yeah. Well, you know what? I thought it's really cold outside, not really much to do, and I figured, why not record another episode?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's better to get inside and be warm and learn something, or if you're traveling, to learn something along the way too. So.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are watching right now, you might see kind of my background is a little bit, it's a little bit different. I'm working on my office/studio, and I've been doing things over a few weekends now. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, the back will look a little bit nicer and a little bit more cleaned up. But just in case if anyone's noticing that. And we're still trying to figure out our technology. It seems to be like all over the place. But you know, we're a bunch of rookies. Soon we'll be professionals.
Yeah.
Right.
I promise by the third time it'll work all smooth. It took us 30 minutes to get organized to make everything work today. So
yeah, absolutely. So today's topic, it actually comes from an article, blog post that I found a couple of weeks ago. It is written by Beatriz Rose from Espresso Money, and the topic is 20 reasons to delay your retirement according to the professionals. And what I'm going to do is in the description of the podcast as well as the YouTube channel, I will include the link to the article. So for those of you, if you want to read through it, you'll be able to find it there. So I think what we're really going to do today, Ryan, is we're just going to kind of read through each point and kind of provide, some of our feedback based on our own experience and what we've seen as well. Because, February is the unofficial month of retirement, when everyone in Canada is kind of rushing to make their RSP contribution, and everyone's talking about, keep adding to those accounts, keep planning for your retirement, focusing on the date or the age of retirement. But sometimes you don't really need to, retiring necessarily isn't always the best thing to do. Sometimes delaying it, there are benefits in delaying it. And we're going to go through some of those. And again, some of it will be based on the article, but also based on experiences that we've had with our own clients and, personal experiences that we've had with family and friends as well. So I'm going to start off with kind of reading the first little bit here where Beatrice says, most workers dream about a comfortable retirement throughout their years on the job. Indeed, more and more people are deciding to end their professional lives as soon as possible. But did you know that there are many benefits to delaying your retirement? So the first point is take time to plan.
Yeah.
So here, what it says is retiring is a big decision that requires a lot of planning. Among the many factors to consider are your disposable income, such as government pensions, savings, and investments, marital status, retirement activities, travel, home purchase, marriage, and reoccurring expenses. That's why it's strongly recommended that you prepare for retirement by taking some time to ensure you have the necessary funds. A financial planner can be very helpful at this stage. I personally, again, have been in this industry for over 30 years, and I've seen a bit of a shift in terms of the age of the clients that are now coming to us wanting to work on a retirement plan. So I'd say in the first half of my career, the typical person who would start the retirement plan would be someone in their mid-50s who would have, call it, 10 to 15 years remaining before they want to retire. And we would go through their retirement assets, and they'd have zero savings for retirement. And they were prepared to put $100 aside per month for their retirement. That's going to happen again in 15 years. And oh, by the way, I need about $80,000 to $100,000 of income when I do retire.
Yeah.
And really what that meant was we just didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
I love the fact that a lot of the clients that are now coming to us are in their 30s. I'd say 45 and younger. Typically, a little bit older than 25, but we are starting to see clients come to us at age 25 looking to prepare for their retirement. It gives us so much time.
Yeah.
Right? Do you see the same thing?
Yeah, I think the key thing is more people are finding the planning piece so much more important at a younger age. Mm-hmm. And, the age thing is just a number, right? People can retire at really any time they so choose. Mm-hmm. But it's taking the steps necessary to find somebody to work with, somebody that you feel is a great fit for you, and kind of laying out what that plan looks like. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself too on some of these points, which is, really starting to think, what does retirement look and feel like for you? Mm-hmm. And yeah, people are coming often with an idea of what retirement may be, and not having a plan in place as to, what are the expenses going to be like in retirement? What can I expect in retirement? What do you want to do in retirement? And it's people are starting this discussion earlier, which is really great because, yeah, I've had many clients that have come, 5 years away from their goal of retirement of 65 before they really start thinking about what it is to mean to retire. So that's why it was exciting for us to have this conversation, and that we share articles between the two of us, and that we share articles with clients to get the conversation going of what the retirement and what that plan is. And the plan simply just isn't a number, but it's many other factors that we'll obviously go through today too. So,
yeah, I know one thing when I first started in the industry, I had one of my, managers say to me, when someone can't achieve their retirement goal, they didn't plan to fail, they failed to plan.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me, and it's true. And now what I'm finding, specifically again over the last 10 years, there's just so much more information out there, so many more tools available to people that, again, it is prompting them to start having that conversation a lot younger, which is fantastic because it gives them so much more time to really plan for it. And also, as I mentioned in the last episode, course correct. Things do happen. And if you have time to recover, again, it puts you in a better situation as you approach retirement. Yeah. So, for people who are looking at 65, if they delay it, it just gives them a little bit more time to really plan for the retirement. And there's really 4 things that we ask people when we are talking about retirement, because, sometimes when I meet a new individual, a new client, and we go through the questionnaire and ask if they have a retirement plan, many would say yes. And then when I sit down with them, I'll ask them about their retirement plan. They're like, oh yeah, I make a contribution into my RSP. I'm like, no, that's a retirement account. That's not a plan. Have you actually documented? So the 4 questions usually that I'll ask them is, listen, what rate of return do you have to earn on the assets that you have accumulated for you to live at your current standard of living and last to life expectancy? Do you know that rate of return? And most people would say, no, I don't. Then the second one I would ask is, how much do you need to have saved today for you to live at your current standard of living and last till life expectancy? And again, usually the response is, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Then the third one, and it's a question that we need an answer to, is if you are not yet retired, do you know how long will you have to work for you to live at your current standard of living and last till life expectancy? And most people don't know the answer. And then finally, if you don't do anything different than you are doing today, how much will you have to reduce your standard of living for your money to last till life expectancy? So these are 4 questions that we ask, and we're able to answer for clients and provide them with the path to say, well, here's the answer. It might not look great. So what do we need to do to make sure that we get you there?
Yeah.
Right. And we use programs like Planworth, for example. And I know, you're working with Planworth, as am I, with clients, and it allows us to answer those questions for people.
And it's visual too, and it allows people to really see where they're at. And it's often the scariest step is taking that first step to find out, where am I currently at, right? Mm-hmm. It's a big point to look back to what you're doing right now, how you're spending your money, how you want to spend your money in retirement, and to visually see how that is. I'm a visual person, so I teach visually, and I know the clients that we've sat down and done Planworth with have been like, it's an eye opener. It's like, wow, I'm on track. Like if I do some of the things I'm doing right now, and it often answers the 4 questions that you mentioned. So
I think people are afraid of the 50-page printed report, and that's not what we're doing with them.
No,
right? We're providing them with visuals, not just data. We have the data to back it up. Yeah, but we're visually showing them if they're going to achieve some of those goals. So that's great. So why don't you read the next point then?
Yeah, the next one is to save more. Obviously, it's a great idea to save more. So, staying in the workforce a few more years enables you to put more money away for retirement. This can be especially useful if you're planning a big project. People like to buy more properties, renovate their current home to prepare for retirement. Often things happen in life, like second marriages. You can underestimate some of the things that happen with the amount of money that you actually need when you get into retirement. So again, putting that plan together can help kind of put a goal in place as to some major things that you want to accomplish before retirement happens. Because when you're in retirement, you're often on a steady budget, right? You kind of know where most stuff is. At least you want to try to plan that way. And it's obviously one of the things we do with our clients is just asking them to understand where their expenses are right now. It can help them also find more money that they didn't realize that they had. So, yeah,
that was actually a point I was going to make too, is, people will sometimes say, well, I'm tapped out. Like, where am I going to find more money? And as we work with them, we've identified things like lost opportunity costs, and we're able to recoup some of that lost opportunity costs and some of these wealth transfers that are happening with our clients unknowingly and unnecessarily. So that's definitely one way that we help clients to find money to be able to save for their future. So that's a fantastic point. Yeah. So I'll read the next one, which is take advantage of compound interest. So it's not rocket science. The more money you put aside for retirement, the more compound interest your nest egg will earn. Waiting to dip into your investments will give your money more time to grow and can make a difference to your retirement income. And we just talked about this recently where I said, compound interest is great, but not all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So for example, if you are in a GIC or whatever investment vehicle and it's sitting in a tax-free savings account and it's compounding, that's wonderful. It's growing in value. The money's growing tax sheltered. And when you take the money out, there's no tax on the money. So in that respect, it's fantastic. Another area where it does a similar thing is in a whole life insurance policy that's earning dividend cash value. It's compounding, it's growing, and usually I'll show clients, the cash values, usually after year 15 or 20, depending on the insurance company and the structure of the policy, how it really starts to compound. So again, another situation where it's wonderful. Yeah. But in an RSP, we're not only compounding the growth, but what else are we compounding? We're compounding the potential tax bill.
Yeah. We all love taxes, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah. It's one thing where people kind of look at it, and the reason why they focus on the RSP, and we're not suggesting you shouldn't do an RSP or you should. That's really dependent on the individual's situation. But we don't want to pay taxes, so we make that big contribution, and we receive this refund today.
Yeah.
And we think that we've saved taxes, but we haven't saved taxes. We're just deferring it. To right?
The future.
And not only that, we're also increasing the potential tax liability as well as we defer it.
Yeah. Again, compound interest is an amazing thing in many ways. Einstein, I think, said it was a wonder of the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure. And the other area too that it's a bit of an issue, a tax liability, is in a non-registered environment. So, for example, if you have $100,000 in a non-registered GIC and it's earning 5%, most people, what they'll do in a GIC is they'll typically take out a 3 to 5 year term, because that typically provides the highest rate of return, and the interest that's earned every year is reinvested on an annual basis. The thing is that even though you don't see that $5,000 at the end of year one, it's reinvested, you're paying tax on that $5,000 of earned income. And then what happens is in year two, now you're earning 5% on $105,000. Guess what? It means your tax liability has just grown a little bit, and all the way up to year 5. So, one of the strategies that we might want to consider is, instead of reinvesting that $5,000 or the 5% or whatever it is that you've earned, we pull that money out at the end of the year and redirect it somewhere else. We can redirect it in a tax-free savings account, insurance policy. There's a lot of different vehicles. So that's another way that compound interest could also be a liability for an individual.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
All right. So I think I read the last one, right? So now it's your turn.
Yeah. So decrease the length of retirement for which you must save. So life expectancy obviously is getting longer and longer for a lot of people, which means you'll have even more golden years. All I can think of in the golden years is David Bowie's song, Golden Years. So to enjoy. So be sure to plan your finances accordingly. Assuming your health permits, staying in the workforce for a few more years will increase your savings while decreasing the number of years of retirement for which you must save. So, obviously health is becoming a bigger factor in all of this, and that we're living longer than ever before. And hopefully we're taking care of ourselves to ensure, and in that too, allows us to work beyond the number that is programmed into our heads of 60, 65, right? And making sure that we're doing everything necessary to have that plan in place to make sure that we're okay through the later years. Because worst thing to have is to run out of money in the golden age and relying on other means, right? So
I think that's a real fear. When I first started in the industry, no one that we ever talked to was afraid of running out of money in retirement.
Yeah.
But now that's a real concern, because as you mentioned, we are living longer, and it's not just we're educated from a health point of view on what we should or shouldn't do.
Yeah.
But modern medicine has also allowed us to live longer. Once upon a time, if you had cancer, it was almost a guarantee that you weren't going to survive. Now survival rates are that much higher, which is fantastic. Yeah. And the other thing too is, technology, our smartwatches that can detect if you're having a heart attack or if there's oxygen level issues, so just being aware, or, you're sleeping and your heart rate drops, maybe you have sleep apnea. 20 years ago, we didn't have these tools. So we are living longer, and delaying your retirement, as you mentioned, will just allow you to set aside more funds, and also to rely on those funds for a shorter period of time, potentially.
Yeah. And obviously age becoming a factor too. You got to take in consideration what does that age factor going to look like, right? Are we taking care of ourselves? Is a family member taking care of us? We're thinking about other things that you mentioned, cancer and things like that come up within our life. How do we protect ourselves? How do we protect our retirement and our families? What kind of opportunities are there for us to discuss to help make sure that that clients are fully prepared throughout retirement in all ways? So, yeah,
for sure. All right. So the next one, mentor. So more and more companies around the world are making the most of their older employees by having them share their experience with younger generations through mentorship programs. This is a great way to build relationships within the company and enhance your sense of belonging and accomplishment. So basically what it's saying here is delaying your retirement will allow you to be a mentor in your profession to the younger generation. And we need that mentorship.
Yeah.
And I think you've had more experience in that field with your past employment. So anything else to add to that?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of companies are seeing the benefits of keeping people on longer, making sure that they're doing proper succession planning through all stages, right? And through that mentorship, I find when working with people and being able to teach what has excitement behind it, right? You almost get like a second wind of enjoyment to share with the next generation coming through. Yeah. All those nuggets of information that were passed on to you that you didn't realize, right? So, it's really important for mentorship. And again, it comes in all ways in all businesses. I feel mentorship is one of the most important parts of working within an organization or working by yourself, is finding people to lean on and find great ways to advance your own career or your day-to-day living, right? So yeah, for sure. Now, the next one is about increasing your government pension. So obviously places like Canada, many other countries out there, we have government pensions. It also results in payments increasing by approximately 6 to 8% per year, allowing us to defer. So by not retiring at a certain age, holding off, some of those amounts can increase over time. It can have a big impact, but I know you and I were talking a little bit about, is it good to defer? Now, of course, every person is different. Every situation is different. And you were saying that, take it while you can and invest it, right? So often people talk about clawbacks too. So
yeah, there's different philosophies with this. I mean, if you get technical and you look at, CPP, for example, and just as a reminder too, that this article was written from the US. So some of these might be more US focused, but if you take your CPP, I believe at age 65, as long as you live past age 76, then you are better off taking or waiting until you're 65, as opposed to sooner than that. But that's the problem, is we just really don't know when ultimately we're no longer going to be around. Yeah. Our philosophy is, the old, and my partner John says this quite often, it's better to have, a bird in the hand than two in the bush, right? So, you're getting something. What it does is, even if you don't require it and you set it aside, it provides you liquidity. Because if, you decide that you want to go on a trip or there is a major expense, you can't go to Canada Pension Plan and say, hey, this year I need an extra 10 grand. Do you mind cutting me a check for an extra $10,000? They just don't do that. But if you've received those funds and you've set it aside, well, now you can dip into some of that liquidity. So that's part of it. The other concern too is changes to the payments. So once you've started to draw, typically from these government programs, you're grandfathered in. Yeah. But we don't know what the future plans are. We don't know if they're going to delay when we can start accessing Canada Pension Plan. We don't know if there's going to be reduced amounts. These are many unknowns. Yeah. So it's a philosophical kind of decision in terms of what you want to do with that pension plan.
Yeah, I did order a crystal ball on Amazon Prime, so I'm hoping to see if if something comes of that. So I'll make everybody aware in case I know if the Maple Leafs will ever win the Stanley Cup, things like that.
Well, I know that they're going to. We just don't know when. So just have the crystal ball tell us when it's going to happen, right? Yeah. Because it will happen. But I think if the crystal ball works, what we should probably do is we should brand it TVH and just sell it to people.
That's right.
Right? That's another, because they're not going to need us anymore. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a new business.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So how about the next point? Preserve your health. So there's a U.S.-based studies that have shown that those who stay active longer by delaying retirement also tend to live longer. Indeed, workers who retire after age 65, and this actually threw me off a little bit, are 3 times more likely to remain healthy and half as likely to suffer serious illness.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. And I think, when I kind of speak with some clients who romanticize about what retirement is going to look like for them, and they ended up getting a little bit of a taste of it during COVID.
Yeah.
Some of those hardcore, I'm going to retire early, or I'm going to retire at age 55 or whatever, they've changed their minds. They've said, listen, if this is even a hint of what my retirement's going to look like, I think I might as well just keep working and keep my, my mind sharp and be physical and move around. Now, I know with COVID we were restricted, so we weren't able to do travel and stuff. But again, how much travel can you do? How many games of golf can you play before you finally say, I've had enough? Or even mobility issues kind of kick in. And you have to deal with that. And that'll be another episode when we'll be talking about mobility issues.
Yeah,
so anything else you want to add to that?
I'm sure there's lots of people out there that say they could never give up their rounds of golf. So, again, preserving your health obviously is a big thing. And the social aspect of interacting with other people, because we're social beings, being able to plan our days a little bit more around work and other activities that are going on. Often, again, the plan of asking yourself, what does your ideal retirement look like? This is one of those things we want to help you understand too, not just on the financial side, but, as us wanting to care for you and really help you understand what that looks like is what kind of other activities are you going to be doing outside of retirement? It's there's only so much Netflix you can watch before you finish it all, right? So
I don't know. My mom, we got her, my stepdad, a smart TV for Christmas, and Netflix is on there. And I got to tell you, they spend, I think since Christmas, all day and every day, just watching movie after movie after movie. Like they're loving it. So it almost feels like it's endless. But at some point you're going to get tired of it, obviously. But they're not quite there. They're not tired of it as of yet. And again, people are a little bit more active when they are working, the travel to and from, and again, the social aspect. So, but the next one was take advantage of the labor shortage. Obviously, there has been a mass exodus of people wanting to work and working. There continues to be a labor shortage. So looking for those opportunities. People are looking for experienced workers, right? Many companies are renewing and reviewing their work conditions. So encouraging older staff to delay their retirement. Again, we talked about sharing their information to the next generation as it comes through. And it's also a good time to maybe renegotiate some of your contracts. And I know I've talked to other clients that have retired, enjoyed a year or so, and decided to go back to work, and sometimes going back to the same work as a consultant. And it obviously adds many benefits as a consultant, because you kind of lay out the groundwork of what you want your work schedule to look like and feel like. So you can take advantage of that. So for sure. And then the next one here says, put your skills to work. So apparently 60 is the new 40.
Yeah.
I hope that's true. Indeed, more and more workers of retirement age shudder at the thought of leaving the workforce. Retiring later means continuing to continue to provide your employer with skills and expertise. Plus, you can take advantage of telecommuting and other new flexible workplace trends to keep doing what you love. And that is one thing that COVID has changed is you don't have to commute every single day now to get to a location. You can still work from home part of the week, every single day, depending on the employer. So it allows you to put those skills to work with the employers. They're valuable skills.
Yeah.
And again, going back to even the mentorship side of things, it allows you to kind of teach those skills to the younger generation, and so they eventually can take over as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So next is support your family. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, as people are starting their families often later than previous generations.
Yeah.
It's actually naturally just pushing that retirement age into the 65 to 70, because you're really wanting to help support your children and sometimes often your grandchildren. So that just naturally happens with, delaying that retirement to help maintain the financial stability. Often right now, people are talking about how do I support my children in either buying a house or simply how do I help people, help my kids get the proper education that they need so they can find the next role. So, you never want to risk your own retirement. And, there's lots of great grants and things people can reach out, and the longer you work with a financial advisor, the better your plan seems, and we can navigate and help support you navigate through that. So,
yeah, I think the one thing we talked about recently too that I'm curious how it might play out in terms of supporting your family. So if you're approaching retirement and you have kids, a few years ago we've talked about how parents, the bank of mom and dad, were assisting their children in providing them with a down payment on a home so they can purchase a home, thinking that was it, that they didn't have to worry about helping them once they got into a home.
Yeah.
And now with the current environment, with people who've had variable rate mortgages and their payments have gone up, now they might need the help from the bank of mom and dad to help maintain the mortgage payments. So that's, I'm curious. I haven't seen it in terms of our client base that happening.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if that's going to play out later this year. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one is protect yourself from the loss of a spouse. So some retirement plans have been designed around both spouses' incomes. What happens, however, if one salary disappears sooner than expected? Putting off retirement will give you more time to make a plan that provides protection should this occur. So, I think that's kind of straightforward. You delay your retirement, gives you a little bit more time, to kind of figure things out. If one of if a spouse does predecease.
Yeah.
But I guess what I would say is if we've done proper planning for them, there would be assets that would roll over to that surviving spouse. And they might just want to keep working just to kind of keep their mind, off of the grief, off of the loss, as opposed to sitting at home and, grieving the loss of their spouse. And we're not saying you shouldn't. Obviously, everyone grieves differently, but some people might just need to keep busy to kind of help them get through that grieving process.
Yeah.
So that would be another reason to potentially delay your retirement.
Yeah. Yeah. The impact that it has on the household, especially if you have children, right, can, suspend or delay retirement further down the road. So as you said, there's lots of ways to help make sure that you're protected and help make sure you're taking just one less stress off your plate. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
So the next is put aside money for other investments. Starting to save as early as possible for retirement certainly has its benefits, but each situation is different. For example, if you have a dependent child, keeping money available to support their current needs may make more sense. You can save more for retirement once they are independent. Delaying retirement will increase your chances of reaching all your financial goals. Of course, you should verify any decisions with a financial planner. optimize your saving strategy. So again, we've kind of talked about, there are many different ways to be able to save and many different areas to invest besides just simply what we've always been kind of trained and programmed for, which is RRSPs, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously TFSAs, and you mentioned, life insurance as a strategy too. And there's also private wealth and people use real estate, and I'm sure there's many other things that bring together a full, well-rounded portfolio for somebody. So
yeah, for sure. So the next one, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit, is keep your mind active. So many retirees note that after the first few months of retirement, enthusiasm gives way to boredom. And boy, do I know this with a lot of my clients who have retired.
Yeah.
Many also experience diminished cognitive abilities and mental health once they stop working. Some even decide to keep their minds engaged by taking a part-time job. Indeed, physically and mentally active people may find later retirement a good idea. And I have witnessed this with so many clients who I've worked with, for 15, 20 years leading into retirement. And then they've retired and they've looked so forward to it. And they're really excited the first few months that they can wake up whenever they want to and they can be in their PJs all day long. But after about 3 or 4 or 5 months, that gets old really fast. And then they're wondering, well, what's next? Some of the things that I encourage my clients to do is, why don't you transition slowly into retirement? So as opposed to saying, here's the date, here's the age, and that's it, I'm done, is maybe you kind of start off with, well, maybe I'll work 3 days a week if your employer allows it. Yeah. And at the same time, I encourage them, try to find a hobby to get into. Don't wait until you've retired to figure that out.
Absolutely.
Start doing it as you're transitioning towards retirement. That way, once you've decided that enough's enough and you no longer want to go to work, you figured out what your hobby is. You figured out, some of the things you can do to keep yourself active. My father-in-law, a retired surgeon, I think he waited till his early to mid-70s to finally retire. And just like any other client, kind of struggled a little bit. But I think he's 85 now, turning 86, and he's so much busier than he ever was because he got into the church, involved with the church. One of his hobbies we didn't know at the time was he loved engineering, and he does a lot of metal work. He actually made something for our house as well, a little pot hanger from the ceiling. Yeah, it's beautiful. We love it. And all of a sudden, he just got excited. That was his passion. And we can see the change in him and many other clients of mine who have gone through the same process when they figured out what their hobby is and they picked up passion for it. I've seen painting, I've seen music, I've seen new business ventures. Yeah. They totally change. So it does help keep your mind active for sure.
Yeah. I've seen the same thing with a lot of clients. They find themselves even busier. They found the time to pick up a new hobby. Painting and photography and volunteering is a big one. Obviously, often people get to that age that they have grandchildren, and sometimes some of the sport is helping their kids with their own grandchildren, right? So
I figure I might end up being a shuttle driver for one of the car dealerships. I like driving. I like people, so I figured if I ever decide that I want to stop working in my 70s and I can still see and I can still drive, I might be a shuttle driver.
You know what? I have one client that did that and became a shuttle driver, and another that works for a community crew, which is, volunteer work, providing lunches for kids. Right. So, and that's part of the discovery. We often ask to make sure you stay active in many ways, right? So, and you mentioned it for the next point is really exploring new career horizons, right? Whether it's becoming your own consultant or finding a passion that you enjoy or a side gig. I've talked to people that become knitter and sell on Etsy and things like that. So there's so many things to explore. and passions to perhaps discover or reignite when you have that time, right? So try to encourage my mom. She loves reading books. That she should start her own blog and start reviewing books for Indigo. Because often people look to her for suggestions. So lots of book clubs and stuff. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess the next one is increase your salary. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? So remaining in the workforce longer increases your years of experience and can lead to a promotion or higher salary. The opportunity to boost your revenue before retirement could help make your dreams a reality. And it's so true. Again, where I think a lot of employers maybe don't really appreciate the skill set that some of the older employees possess and they have, and they appreciate their value after they've left or retired.
Yeah.
And to your point, sometimes they're called back at a much higher salary because the employer recognizes, yes, this person does possess a lot of skill set, difficult to find, a lot of experience, and they finally do appreciate that person's value.
Yeah.
So that's definitely another good reason to delay your retirement.
Yeah. So the next two, I'm going to actually combine into one because they're a little bit similar, but taking advantage of both your medical insurance through your companies and any other benefits that are offered through your employer, right? We forget that sometimes we have life insurance, CI, DI, things like that, our dental benefits. But it's also something very important to review before going to retirement. What are some of the costs associated with retirement as I age, the medications that I'll need that we didn't think about, like visiting regular dentist visits. This isn't a plug to any dentist, but anyway, dentists out there. The importance of oral health and that importance of the reflection on the rest of the body. So reviewing and making sure that you're not walking out of your workplace with no coverage for a need that you may have, whether you still haven't paid off any debts, mortgage, things like that. It's important to make sure that you have those coverages so they're not a surprise in retirement. And just the amazing offerings that some companies have for wellness in general, right? So, some people have a company car or the phone, and these are all expenses that you didn't take into consideration before retirement, that suddenly you need a car, you need to pay for your phone or your internet. So some of these things can be great benefits of sticking on just a little bit longer to make sure that you don't have to pay for them for an extra year or 5 years, whatever it is. So yeah,
for sure. All right, the next one, and this is the next couple are really something we're all really living with right now. So the first one is counter market volatility. So financial markets have fluctuated greatly, as we know, since 2020, possibly affecting your retirement investments. To avoid selling shares at a loss, those who can afford it may be wise to wait a few years for the markets to recover. And I can go back to 2008 when we had the global market correction. And I know there were individuals who were a year or two away from retiring, and they had to delay their retirement by about 5 years. They were forced to, because markets dropped by 45% on average. So they lost half of their retirement assets. It took about 5 years for those values to come back up to break even again. So they were forced to retire. What I would say is, with a lot of our clients, we talk about things like market volatility and how do we deal with market volatility based on the planning that we do. And, some of the things that we do is we try to structure part of their portfolio where they don't necessarily follow the public markets. Yeah. So if you are dealing with market volatility in part of your portfolio, we have another asset that we can tap into that's not affected by market fluctuation. It's referred to sequence of return risk. And a lot of people haven't really been talking about that. And it's something that we do speak with our clients about, is that sequence of return risk and that concern. So delaying your retirement for sure will allow you to have some of those portfolios recover.
Yeah.
But also, again, structuring your portfolio in such a way where it's not 100% in the public markets will also protect you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, as you said, counter inflation. So,
Yep.
Inflation has a big impact. We were just talking a little bit about, GICs and how you can be locked into GIC and how the reaction is that you're losing out on both opportunities, but also you're losing out on inflation because you're actually losing money as the value of that money decreases, right? So cost of living continues to go up. There's apparently an egg war going on right now with
an egg war.
Cost of eggs is going through the roof right now, apparently. So
good thing I live near in a farmland or a farm community, because we just go down the street and there's actually an egg farmer there.
Yeah.
And I forget how much it costs, but it's not that much.
Yeah.
So maybe people need to keep moving towards rural areas and have access to fresh food at a lower cost. Cut out the middleman.
Yes. Yeah. I started my own vegetable garden in the backyard, and I've read articles about, even growing a couple chickens can significantly impact both the environment and helping graze and eat some of the things in your backyard, but also at the same time, fresh eggs. So I'm going to get plump and juicy chicken wings.
Oh, there you go. Okay, now you're getting me hungry. All right. Well, good thing we're on our last point then, right?
Absolutely.
Which is pay off your debts. That gives you more time to pay off your debts if you have any debts. So it's best to put your retirement on hold and pay off debts such as a home purchase or student loans while you have a stable income. You'll then enjoy retirement with peace of mind. I think the one thing that I do talk to clients about is it's not always a bad idea to carry a mortgage payment when you are retired. It's really about cash flow. If the cash flow can support it and you can tap into the equity of that asset and you can afford to make the payments, then it's not necessarily a bad thing. But you might be in a situation where, eliminating that mortgage payment, will give you that much more freedom. So it just gives you, again, depending on the situation, it does give you a little bit more time to pay out some of that debt. 5 years ago, it wasn't really a big concern when people were paying under 3% on their mortgage. Now a little bit different. But credit card debt, things of that nature, for sure. You don't want to be carrying debt at 20, 25%. And, delaying your retirement gives you a little bit more time to pay off some of that debt. Yeah.
Well, again, working with an advisor helps in making smart decisions along the way over a longer period of time, right? Often, it's your money. You can do whatever you want with it. Our job is just to advise you. And one of the important questions I often ask is this allowing you to reach your goal, right? And simply by asking yourself that allows you to pay off debts, allows you to pay off some of the things and make sure that you're achieving your end goal. A goal without a plan is simply a wish. As somebody quoted, I don't know who it is, but my apologies. But it's something I learned a long time ago, is just having a plan along the way and having great people to support you, that you trust their advice, and it can help you reach all these things that you want in life.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, that was the last point. We don't have any more points to discuss, unless there's anything you can think of off the top of your head.
No, again, it was a great article to share, and I know we bounce these ideas back. And if there's anything that people want information on, that we're here, we're available to talk about them and to walk through a plan and a strategy for you. So,
yeah, absolutely. So, thanks again for our listeners. Thank you for our viewers as well. If you have any questions on some of these points, if you want to review your plan, if you want to answer some of the 4 questions that we talked about in the beginning of the episode, and you'd like us to help you answer those questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can find us at www.tvhfinancial.ca, or you can email us at financial@tvhgroup.ca, or give us a call at 647-727-4668. My name is Jim.
And
with
I'm
my
Ryan.
co-host Ryan Janot, and this is the Tortoise and the Hare Financial Podcast. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Ryan.